Hey guys, what's up? This is Scott York. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we're going to look at the 1998 Icon Award that was presented to Steve Reeves. Steve had gone to the North Carolina AAU Bodybuilding Championships and he was presented with this plaque, and it was called the Icon Award. So I have a copy of Classic Physique here, and this is from 1998. This is a publication of the Steve Reeves International Society. You can still find these, the originals, on eBay from time to time. So I'm going to read a little bit about the AAU Bodybuilding Championships in North Carolina. I thought it was really interesting. There are some stories that I had not heard, and the author is Dave Dowling, who has written at least one book on Steve Reeves, and he has attended some of Steve Reeves' events, such as this one. So this article was written by Dave, and everything I'm about to read is his perspective. So follow along here. So, an evening to remember. A lovely Italian restaurant in Durham, about 30 minutes east of Burlington, provided the setting for a memorable evening, complete with unique architecture, great service, and outstanding cuisine. The restaurant was both warm and impressive. To provide even more comfort, all 9 of us dined in a private room just off the main area. Steve and Deborah appeared to be quite relaxed and comfortable throughout the evening. Conversation at dinner centered on Steve's bodybuilding and movie careers, as well as his interests in horses, an interest shared by the Noahs, that was Dr. Noah and his wife who were hosting this event, who have a horse farm in Burlington. Wow, that must have been a high-spirited conversation with Steve and his love of horses, and then the Noahs and their love of horses. Throughout the dinner, Steve kept us entertained with many stories, including humorous ones. And before I turn the page, so there's a close-up of Steve at the event. And then we have Steve here, must be the overall winner of the event, and the Noahs, Mr. Noah and his wife. So Steve told humorous stories about the differences between living in Europe and the United States. With regard to his film career, Steve elaborated on how he injured his left shoulder while filming The Last Days of Pompeii. I wonder how many of you guys have seen that film. It was filmed in Spain in 1959. After initially injuring the shoulder during a chariot collision, a final scene during the eruption of Mount Vesuvio, I have no idea how to pronounce that word, required Steve to swim under flaming diesel fuel until he reached the other actors in a boat. Unfortunately, with each stroke, the shoulder grew worse. Deborah related to me, once again this is Dave Dowling talking, that despite Steve having an operation many years later to correct the injury, he still experiences some pain. Now, if you know on my Instagram account, which is Steve Reeves Hercules, you saw an ad, well, not an ad, you saw a flyer on the animal trainer that Steve helped to create, the animal trainer. So check that out on my Instagram, and that'll show you what Steve used to help rehab his shoulder. He also did pool exercises and, of course, in the weight room. Now, this was really cool. The evening continued with Steve sharing some of his exercise routines and feats. 1,200-pound leg presses in 47 minutes. All right, well, 200 pounds is not a lot of weight, but remember, Steve is older at this point, and I'm assuming that he did this when he was a little older. 1,000 reps of 200-pound leg presses, and I'm assuming that he did that on his universal multi-station machine in 47 minutes, as well as his fond memories of his longtime friends Jack LaLanne, John Grimmick, and George Eiferman. Steve mentioned that he still has the mouthpiece he used to lift up George many years ago. Now, I don't own that, I can tell you right now. I do own a ton of Steve Reeves memorabilia, but I don't own that. Steve also quite enthusiastically talked about the next edition of his book, Building the Classic Physique, The Natural Way. He feels the added 48 pages he's provided on workout routines and nutrition can only help people in their pursuit of a classic physique. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I do want to read a couple more things. So I'm going to finish this paragraph here. As we were leaving the restaurant, Steve, in his usual quick-witted self, joked to me about the restaurant's floor-to-ceiling pillars. Dave, if these pillars weren't so far apart, I'd pull them down for you. Needless to say, Dave talking here, I had a good laugh, and with that Hercules cue, my film curiosity got the best of me. I asked where that climatic scene of him pulling the pillars down was filmed. The popular Titanus Studios in Rome was the answer. Considering that the film was made over 40 years ago, long before digital effects were a household name, we both agreed the studio and production company did a great job in recreating the ancient Greek architecture. Alright, so you might be wondering why I have George Hackenschmidt's The Way to Live, Health and Physical Fitness by George Hackenschmidt. And by the way, George was a judge at the 1948 Mr. Universe. So to me, as a physical culturist, as someone who loves physical culture and want to stay involved for the rest of my life, the fact that George Hackenschmidt was there, and I don't know, maybe he held that actual trophy, the 1948, where Steve got second place. And I do own that trophy. I have a video on this YouTube channel if you haven't seen that. So here's why I have this book, The Way to Live. And this book is in pristine condition, hard copy. I don't know if you can find these. You might be able to find the PDF, but if you find one of these, grab it if you can. Okay, so I'm going to read from here down to here. So for the remainder of the morning and afternoon, Steve graciously greeted the many fans who were anxiously waiting to meet him, and through the clouds and rain remained overhead for most of the day. The atmosphere surrounding Steve was far from gloomy. Steve generously and energetically answered all questions, autographed many items, and posed for many photos. You cannot help but notice the excited look on people's faces when they meet Steve for the first time. As I was handing out information on the Steve Reeves International Society newsletter, many fans remarked to me about how healthy and fit Steve still looks. So this is 1998. He was born in 1926. So 72 years old in 1998, 2 years before he passed away. I could not agree more. Steve later entertained a few of us by sampling a leg press machine for one of the show's sponsors. Effortlessly, the former Mr. America demonstrated just some of his strength by easily mastering the machine. He later commented on how he was impressed with the machine's compactness and portability. I was impressed with his workout alone. Alright, here we go. So this is the part about The Way to Live. A book from the Bodybuilding Archives, How to Live by George Hackenschmidt, also had Steve's attention that afternoon. Dr. Dan Noah, father of Dr. Jeffrey Noah, let Steve review his treasured copy. Steve was quite taken by the book, making several comments about the exercise routines Hackenschmidt documented. Not being a bodybuilder myself, Dave Dowling talking, Steve told me something I was totally unaware of. The popular hack lift exercise was named after the book's author. So there you go. I wonder if Steve had ever seen this book. I'm sure he was aware of it, but I don't know if he actually had had the opportunity to browse through it. So, you know, I've been familiar with this book for a while. I'll be honest, I have not read the whole book, but I'm going to look at some of these workout routines so I can just kind of see what Steve might have been impressed with. I mean, I know George Hackenschmidt was a specimen of a man, a wrestler. I believe he gave talks all around the world, including Harvard. Here's a picture of George Hackenschmidt. Looks like he's pretty young there, 20s, 30s, I'm not sure. So that's why this book, The Way to Live, is in this video, because Steve was really, really interested in that. And I love that about Steve. He was always learning and always reading and always testing and tinkering. And you know, the moment that you think you know everything, you might as well quit, because you can always learn something new. All right, well, there you go. So this is that award. Let's get a little close-up here. North Carolina AAU Physique Club Icon Award, presented to Mr. Steve Reeves, North Carolina AAU Bodybuilding Championships, March 7th, 1998. I would say it's about 10 inches in height compared to this book. You know, this book is pretty small. And if you've ever seen Eugene Sandow's book, it looks just like this. It has a red cover. It's about the same size. It's probably the same publisher. So if we put that book up next to the plaque's probably 10 inches in height and maybe 6 inches or so across. It's beautiful, it's heavy, and I am proud to own it. Well, there you go, guys. If you have any questions or comments, if you know something about that event from 1998, feel free to mention whatever it is down below in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask. All right, well, I got lots more coming, and check out my Instagram account. It's Steve Reeves Hercules, and please subscribe to this channel, and if you like the video, please like it. Tell your friends about it. All right, guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time. Have a great day.